After months of preparation, Liza is finally ready to be presented to the public.
Miss Doolittle?
She's here, Father!
How do you do, Mr. Higgins? Your son, Mr. Higgins, told me I might come.
Quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not?
Yes.
I feel as though we have met before, Miss Doolittle. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter, Clara.
How do you do? How do you do?
I've certainly had the pleasure.
My son, Freddie.
How do you do?
By George! It's all coming back to me. Haven't got him.
Henry, please! Do not sit on my writing table.
Sorry.
Right. Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression west of these islands is moving slowly in an easterly direction. There is no indication of any change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny.
What is wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
Killing.
I'm sure. I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about. It comes around every spring.
My aunt died of influenza, so they said. But it's my belief they done the old woman in.
Done her in.
Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She came through diphtheria right enough the year before. Everyone thought she was dead, but my father kept ladling gin down her throat until she bit the bowl off the spoon.
Dear me!
What should become of a woman with her strength to have to die of influenza? What would it mean for her to come with me with her new straw hat? Someone had pinched it in, and I say that who pinched it in was the one that done her in.
What does doing her in mean?
That's the new small talk. Doing her in means to kill her.
You surely don't believe that your aunt was killed, do you?
Don't I? Them that lived with her would have killed her for a hat pin, let alone a hat.
It can't be right that your father poured spirits down her throat. That could have killed her.
Not her. Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, he had poured enough of it down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
Do you mean that he dank?
Dank? My word! Something chronic.
How dreadful for you.
Not a bit. He only drank from time to time. I mean, it's like this. When my father would come home from work, my mother would give him 4 pence and tell him to go to the bar and drink himself happy and lovingly like. That's how it is. Husbands come home and have a conscience when they're sober, but then they go out and drink themselves until they're happy like.
The new small talk. You do it so awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, why were you laughing? Have I said something I oughtn't?
Not at all, Miss Doolittle.
Well, that's a mercy anyhow. What I always say is... Well, I must go now. So pleased to have met you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye, Liza.
Goodbye, all.
Are you going to walk across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so...
Not bloody likely. I'm going to take a taxi.
I really can't get used to these new ways.
Oh, it's alright. Quite right, Mama. People will think if you don't see anywhere or go anywhere, if you're so old-fashioned.
I dare say that I am old-fashioned, Clara, but I do not like how you've been using that expression. It's very unladylike. Don't you think, Colonel Pickering?
Don't ask me. I've been away in India for several years, and I sometimes don't know whether I'm at a respectable dinner table or a ship's forecastle.
It's all a matter of habit. There's no right or wrong in it. Nobody means anything by it. I'm finding new small talk quite delightful and innocent.
Well, after that, I think it's time to go.
Oh yes, we still have 3 homes to go to. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering. Goodbye, Mr. Higgins. Goodbye, Professor Higgins.
Goodbye. Be sure to try out that new small talk at the 3 homes. Don't be afraid to pitch it in strong.
I will. Goodbye. Such nonsense, all this early Victorian prudery.
Such damn nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense.
Clara!
Well, I ask you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
Yes, I should. Most awfully.
Well, you know my days.
Thank you. Awfully.
Goodbye, Mr. Higgins.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
It's no use. I shall never be able to bring myself to use that word.
Don't. It's not compulsory, you know. You'll get on quite well without it.
Only Clara is so down on me if I'm not on the latest slang. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You mustn't mind, Clara. We're so poor, and we go to few parties. But the boy is nice, don't you think?
Oh, quite nice. I shall always be delighted to see him.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, what do you think of Eliza?
Silly boy, she's not even presentable. She's a triumph of your art and of your dressmakers. But if you think for a second she doesn't give herself away with every sentence she utters, then you must be perfectly cracked about her.
But don't you think something might be done? I mean, something to remove the sanguinary element from her conversation.
Not as long as she's in Henry's hands.
Do you mean my language is improper?
No, dearest. It would be quite proper, say on a canal barge, but it would be quite improper at a garden party.
Well, I do say.
Come, Higgins, you must learn to know yourself. I haven't heard language such as yours since Hyde Park 20 years ago.
Oh well, if you say so. I guess I don't always talk like a bishop.
Shh. Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what the exact state of things is in Wimpole Street?
Well, I have come to live there with Henry, and we study my Indian dialects, and we think it's more convenient.
Quite so. I know all about that. It's an excellent arrangement, but where does the girl live?
With us, of course. Where else would she live?
But on what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
I think I know what you mean, Mr. Higgins.
Well, dash me if I do. I've spent every day of the last couple months working to get this girl in the present pitch she's in. But she's very useful, too. She remembers my things and appointments.
How does your housekeeper get on with her?
Oh, Miss Pierce, she's jolly glad to have her off her hands. Before, she had to remember my appointments and where I would put things. But she has something of a bee in her bonnet about Eliza. She keeps saying, "You don't think, Higgins?" Doesn't she, Pickering?
Yes, that's the formula. You don't think, sir. That's the end of every conversation about Eliza.
As if I've ever stopped thinking about the girl and her confounded consonants. I've grown tired looking at her mouth, her tongue, her teeth, and her soul, which is the quaintest of the lot.
You certainly are a pretty pair of babies, playing with your live doll.
Playing? The hardest job I've ever tackled. Make note of that, Father. But you have no idea how frightfully interesting it is to change one human being into another by altering her speech. It's fulfilling to the deepest gulf that separates class from class and soul from soul.
Yes, it's enormously interesting, I assure you, Mr. Higgins. We take Eliza very seriously. Every week, every day almost, there's some new change. We keep records of every stage, dozens of gramophone discs and photographs.
Yes, by George, it's the most absorbing experiment I've ever tackled! She regularly fills our lives up, doesn't she, Pick?
Yes, we're always talking Eliza.
Teaching Eliza.
Dressing Eliza.
What?
Inventing new Elizas. You know, she has the most extraordinary quickness of ear, just like a parrot. I've tried her with every possible sort of sound that a human being can make.
And it's the same
Continental dialects, African dialects,
she hears right off when
Hottentot
she comes
clicks,
home.
things that
Whether it's
took me
Beethoven's
years
and
to get a
Brahms,
hold
let
of.
her line
And
working.
she picks them up
Though
like a
6
shot,
months ago,
right
she had
away,
never
as if
much
she's
touch
been at
as
it
the rest
her
of
whole
the
life.
Shh! I do beg your pardon.
Sorry, when Pickering starts shouting, you can't get a word in edgewise.
Be quiet, Henry! Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
Her father did, but soon Henry got rid of him.
It would have been more to the point if her mother had, but as her mother didn't, something else did.
But what?
A problem.
Oh, I see. The problem is how to pass off as a lady.
I've half solved that problem already.
No, you two infinitely stupid creatures. The problem of what is to be done with her afterwards.
Oh, she can go her own way and take the advantages I have given her.
The advantages of that poor woman who was here just now. The manners and habits that disqualify a fine lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income. Is that what you mean?
Oh, that'll be all right, Mr. Higgins.
We'll find her some light employment.
She's happy enough. Don't worry about her.
Anyhow, there's no good bothering now. Thing's done. Goodbye, Father.
They'll do us right. There's plenty of openings. Goodbye, Mr. Higgins.